This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social. Delighted to be joined by Eddie Hearn, finally. It's been a very busy day here at the Allen-Browne press conference in London. Eddie, how's the diet going?
Better. So I keep having these, I go to America, put on a stone, come back, lose it all, then I go to America again, right? So I went to America last week, I'm back, I've got to lose, from where I am now, I've got to lose a stone before my birthday, which is 7 weeks. So,
now, at the Liverpool show, Smith Eggington show, somebody came up to me and said, "You're Boxing Social, aren't you?" And I went, "Well, my name's Rob, but yeah, Boxing Social." And he went, "Do you know what? You're not as fat as Hearn makes out you are," which I thought was kind of a compliment, but not really. So I've actually been on a diet since then. But like you, I'm wearing black.
Yeah.
But like you, that first week was fine. It was really good, eating healthy.
Yeah.
And then Lomachenko-Crolla, I wasn't out there, but I was doing media during the week, and yeah, I've put all the weight back on.
yeah, I think the key is, for me anyway, once you get into it, I'm okay. It's just getting into it. But I'm into it now. I've had 3 or 4 runs on the spin, and I actually feel good. For anyone out there that's struggling with your weight, you feel fucking so much better when you lose a few pounds. I mean, the fat and happy thing just is a load of bollocks, to be honest with you. Once you lose a few pounds and you go to the gym for a couple of weeks, you feel much, much better. So I encourage anybody out there. I'm campaigning for fat people all across this country. Forget fat and proud. Forget fat and happy. Let's be honest. You're not, are you? Because I wasn't. Lose a few pounds, get to the gym, feel good. And the sun's coming. Get a little tan at the weekend as well.
Bit of endurable.
Well, don't be doing that.
We'll come on to that later. Let's start on the card today. Dave Allen versus Lucas Browne, the headline, the main event. Talk to me about that fight.
I'm very pleased for Dave. Obviously, there was a lot of... I mean, when we first announced his card, Sky said, "That's a good card. Who's going to headline?" And I went, "Dave Allen." And they went, "Shut up." And I went, "No, Dave Allen." They're like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah." And Sky know how big Dave's numbers are. I'm talking like digital. You know it because you've done, you know. So they know, and they use him for the build-ups, don't they, for box off. They're not stupid, but it's like, is that going to be a good fight? I'm like, I have no idea. And they're like, oh. And then obviously people got on campaigns and Coogan's, and people have been writing in to Sky saying, I mean, if Dave Allen don't headline, I'm going to cancel my Sky, right? So there's been like this movement, and in the end, there was enough of that to say, okay. And I spoke to Sky last week, what do you think? I said, I told you, Dave Allen. They're like, I think you're right. You know, I think they felt Chisora's coming off a pay-per-view fight, and you know, the fight with Gashi's going to be good fun. And there's so much uncertainty when Dave Allen fights. That's the problem. And we could be, you know, you could be interviewing me on Saturday night going, what was that? I'm just talking about that fight. And I go, I don't. So that's why I'm telling you now, I don't know. You might get the best heavyweight fight you've ever seen, or you might get, after 6 rounds, just a slob fest where they're just cuddling each other. I don't know. But the one thing I will say is, Dave couldn't have done any more this time around. So whatever happens, I'm happy because he can look himself in the eye, win, lose, draw, and say, couldn't have done any more. It's really, the tough thing for Dave is executing it on the night, because you can train hard. Now he's got a new trainer with Darren Barker, which again isn't, like, it's tough to do, like, but you have to execute it on the night. And you know when he boxed Leroy Thomas, that was such a good chance to execute it on the night. And whether it was too early, whether he just didn't have enough experience, I don't know. But you know, he nearly won the fight, but it was pretty shit. So I expect a good fight. Both guys are in great shape. Both guys punch hard. Both guys can take a bit of hammer. Both guys, you have to, as Dave said, render them unconscious to get them out of there. I don't know. I mean, you're close to Dave. What do you think?
I was going to come on to that. I sat down with Dave yesterday. He's been very different in this camp, in the build-up to the camp. I used to speak to Dave pretty much every day. Went from speaking to him virtually every day to not speaking to him for weeks on end. He seemed to have shut the outside world off. The question that I have is whether that is necessarily good for him.
You're saying he shut the outside. Is that? Do you think he shut the outside world off, or just realised you're a bit of a bellend?
I think he knew that anyway, so I don't think that would
So
necessarily
all right, good. Okay,
convince him to
that's
do that. Yeah, so it's nice to make that
You are
distinction.
right. You end up putting a lot of pressure on yourself, and I think, but I think that works in two ways. Some people can't handle the pressure. Some people need that. Like I know fighters where they need to. Kell Brook's a bit like that. You know, his discipline's horrendous. But if you put him under pressure, like if he knows he's under pressure, he will train and he will perform. I don't know whether that's good or bad for Dave. We'll find out on Saturday. Maybe he's put too much pressure on himself. And you know what that can lead to is almost like exhaustion in the fight, where you've seen it like with David Price. I think he has so much nervous energy, puts so much pressure on himself that he gets knackered quickly. And the ones that can sort of soak it up and are more relaxed, they go into the fight and end up being the ones that they might not be in the same physical condition, but they're the ones that are still standing after 8 or 9 rounds. So I don't know. That's one of the fascinating things with this fight. It's such a feel-good story, but it doesn't mean he's going to win. But if you combine a feel-good story with a great victory, I think he could end up walking himself into just a monster fight here. And I just want him to walk out of the sport happy, really, and with a nice few quid. Like, he's bought houses. Who would have thought Dave Allen would have ended up buying houses out of boxing? He's done that already. But win this fight, you'll be buying streets. So that's the motivation for him. He wants to win for many reasons. I think he wants to win to prove to himself he can win. I think he wants to win for the people. I think he wants to win for his dad, whether he admits that or not, and his nan and his family. So yeah, but we're talking about Dave Allen. We're not really talking about Lucas Browne. Lucas Browne wants to win fucking bad and all. He's got fights lined up. He's got money to make. He wants to pay bills. He wants to live well. So it's going to be a scrap, and it might be a scrap to the very end.
One thing that Dave did tell me yesterday, he said that he hasn't been drug tested for this fight, and he said neither has Lucas Browne. Thoughts?
Just because there isn't Vada testing for this fight. Well, I say that. Lucas Browne has signed up to Vada testing, okay, with the WBC. He's a ranked fighter. And Dave Allen is UCAD tested through the British Boxing Board of Control. The fact they haven't been drug tested is not great, but they're both signed to random testing, and sometimes that's enough to deter someone. So I would rather you were signed to random testing than not signed to random testing and thinking, okay, I can do whatever I want, to thinking I might get a knock any day now. I mean, Lucas Browne's been through situations where, if he's on a random testing program, which he is, he would have to be a clown to be doping, right? The only way you get consistent Vada testing, which is what we saw with Jarell Miller and which we see in every anti-Joshua fight, is in the major fights, because it's a lot of money. As long as someone's on some type of random program, I'm quite relaxed. In an ideal world, we would do the Vada testing program for every fight that we do for all the major fights.
Do you think there's anything that, we'll come back to the rest of the card, but
by the way, both fighters will be tested on the night. It's not a 100% concrete system where you will catch a doper, but both fighters are tested on the night.
Where do you think boxing needs to go? The WBC have got the year-round testing. Obviously, you've got Vada, but that also comes with its own flaws. I know the Charlos missed test last year. I asked Mauricio about that, and he basically said that there wouldn't be any sanctions for missing the test. That's obviously not good. Now the UFC they contract USADA to oversee all of their fights and all of their fighters. You've seen TJ Dillashaw get popped lately.
Another problem with sometimes with bodies like USADA is that it's who they report the findings to. So you could have a testing agency that you're using who only give you the results, right? So say that I employ USADA. I'm going to go, Matchroom employ USADA or UCAD, right? And then it's me contracting with them. So when a fighter fails a test, who gets told? Me. So what I'm saying is, how do we know in America, and I've heard a lot of stories, that there aren't people that have failed drugs tests, that it's never got out? I don't just think boxing, I think sport, So what must happen, the first thing that happens, and this is what Vada do, is they tell the commission. So when Jarell Miller failed a drugs test, I got an email, Miller's team got an email, the commission got an email, every governing body got an email to say, here is the findings from his test, he's failed a test. right? That's what you need. Because otherwise, how many people have failed tests that have never even got out there? I bet loads. So it's a massive problem, because in the UK, at least the British Boxing Board of Control use UKAD on a random testing program for their fighters. Now, it's not great that fighters like Dave Allen haven't been tested. I'll tell you, Joshua's been in camp for 4 weeks. He's been tested by UKAD 4 times, probably, in 4 weeks. So no disrespect to Dave, but probably the lower end, like the non-champions. And actually, I think in championship bouts, there's a lot more chance of being tested. This is a non-championship bout. So, but as long as you're part of that program, as long as there's the threat that at any moment someone could come up to your door, and that makes me feel better. In America, I think it's a major problem because there is no random testing program. For the criticism that the WBC do, at least they're doing something. I mean, but the problem is, again, Lucas Brown weren't tested by the WBC in his camp, but it's not a WBC fight. So, but it's a random program. And unfortunately, the cost is so vast that it is impossible to test every WBC fighter like every week or every 2 weeks. The problem in America is, if you're not signed up to WBC, you're not getting tested once. You get tested on fight night. That's it, which we know. Like, you can get popped on fight night, but if you know anything about cheating, if you've got people around you, that you won't get done on fight night. So in America, the problem is there's no British Boxing Board of Control. There's individual commissions. But even the commissions don't employ a random program. So I feel like the commissions need to say, if you want to be licensed in this state, you have to sign up to our random testing. Again, Rob, the cost is so vast, they ain't got the money to do it. So it's going to take, just to give you an example, for one fight, for a 12-week program, which is what you need 12 weeks, right? $30,000 for one fight. You might have 10 fights on the card. You're going to pay $300,000 for testing. So it's going to take a government agency, it's going to take a governing body or a commission, or it might even take, listen, if every promoter wants to stick in $200,000, £250,000, I'll do it, so that there's universal blanket testing. Because I believe that with a lot of fighters that I've got, you give us an even playing field, my guys will win. And I don't want to risk not just defeat, but the threat of someone getting injured. And as disappointing as this Jarell Miller situation is, at least we found out, right? What if we didn't do testing for this fight? And what if Jarell Miller went in that ring, and after 8 rounds, he's taken all the hammer, and he's still going, and he's fighting, and he knocks Joshua out. Joshua, and I hate to say it, touch wood, gets injured, and has to retire from the sport. A fighter could become disabled, and we never found out. And that guy was cheating. He was getting an edge physically. His endurance was up, his strength was up, his power was up. This is a sport where your objective is to knock your opponent out. It's not tennis. It's not speed walking. If you want to cheat in those sports, shame on you. But this is different. So as sick as I am that this has happened, I'm just glad we found out. And again, Jarell flatly denying, taking anything. Maybe he's telling the truth. Maybe he was unlucky. Maybe someone convinced him to take it. Maybe he knew all along. I don't care. It's in your system, mate. Once it's in your system, I want you out. Because I don't want to put myself in a position. Imagine if, Josh always says to me, I want to make sure these guys are Vada tested, right? It would have been very easy. No one really wants to get Vada tested for a number of reasons. Sometimes maybe they're cheating. Secondly, it's a ball ache. People are knocking at your door at 5 in the morning. You've got to take blood, all this. So no fighter, right, if a fighter had a choice, generally they'd go, oh, rather not. But Joshua always insists on it. It's not easy, and it wasn't easy with Jarell and multiple other fighters who have passed tests to get them done, to get the paperwork done, to push to get it done, to get it over the line. I could have just left it. And not, AJ probably would have never even known. But then what if something would have happened on the night? I would never forgive myself. I would have left the sport immediately. It would ruin my life. And it could ruin someone else's life. So we have a responsibility to fighters that we look after and we represent to try and make sure that, particularly in the big, dangerous, tough fights, that it's an even playing field. So we try where we can. There's so many fights we do now have Vada testing, big fights, but it's hard to consistently do it for every single fight because the cost is immense. And I don't know what the answer is, but in America it's a big problem. Because at least here, I know, because I've got a lot of fighters in Britain, they're getting tested regularly by UKED. But at least they've got the threat, you know? In America, you can do what you want. There's no threat. There's no chance of you being tested until fight night. How many fighters you get there, fucking hell, he looks good. Wow, he might be cheating. That's going to kill the sport. It's going to ruin the sport. So the pleasing thing in this instance, while it's a complete ball ache, is we found out, and potentially we might have stopped something like that from happening.
Have you spoken to Jarell Miller since?
No, he messaged me last night. I didn't reply because it's, you know, there's stuff that's got to be dealt with legally and stuff like that. And he just said to me, "This is bullshit. I didn't take anything." You know, if I did reply, what I would have said was, "You did." Now, did you know about it? Was it in a supplement that you thought didn't contain it? Was someone else got in your ear and told you this is really what you want to be taking? It's in you. Like, this is a blood test. Don't just show up like they're just pretending it's in there. It's in your system. And it does all the things that they've reported it does. I don't want you in the fight.
Do you believe him? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I mean, he does have previous. He failed a drugs test in 2014. He's also, we talked about the WBC clean boxing program earlier, spoken to you about it in the past, Dan Mauricio. He was removed from the rankings because he didn't want to sign up to it. Now he pops on a doping test. Do you believe him?
He don't look good. I like Jarell Miller. You know, I'm quite fond of him, I think, and I'd like to think that it was a mistake. Yeah, one of the problems is that so many people have said to me, God, he's lost this massive payday and this massive opportunity. He has. But if he would have won the fight, the rewards are 20 times what he would have made. So does those rewards make you do things that you shouldn't to try and get an edge? In this instance, I don't know, but for sure, like, that has to happen in life where you think, mate, take this, no one will know. And I think I've known athletes before, sprinters, high-profile sprinters, that have failed tests that I would have said to you in a million years, no way. No way. Dwayne Chambers, I've talked about it before. You know, a good person. When he got busted, I was like, no way. I know Dwayne, he wouldn't do that. Then it just turns out that he's part of a training system where everybody's doing it, and everybody's being told, you won't get, you know, this is fine. This is, we'll mask this, we'll mask that. So you just don't know. It's one of probably three things. One is he took something that contained something that he didn't know contained it. That's the best case scenario for him. Number two is he knew all along, and he knew exactly what he was doing, and he wanted to increase his endurance, train harder, be stronger, be more dangerous in the fight. And number three is someone talks him into doing it. My gut feeling is probably the latter. Because how can you be so stupid? And we're not talking about other programs where, like you say, Dave ain't been tested in the last 6 weeks. This is every week. Joshua's been tested 5 times in 3 weeks by Vada. You can't cheat. You can't. So why would you even do it? Unless you didn't know, you're an absolute plum, or someone's told you this is fine. This won't show up. This is a new one. Because they're telling me, and you might know more than me, this is proper. I mean, it's not like clenbuterol. This is like something that's actually horrific for you.
Causes cancer.
Yeah. So, therefore, you've got to be pretty desperate if you're taking this. Or you don't know. You know. But I'd rather not, you know, because like when he sent me that message, it did fuck my head up a little bit, and I'm thinking, maybe you're innocent. And it's like, no, don't even. You're positive. You're out, mate. I want to talk to you. You're done. You had the wrong stuff in your system. Bye. That's how you got to be with this. And it's hard because I've given people chances after they've served their ban because I've believed them or I've wanted to believe. I don't know. Kid Galahad. Lucas Brown. Dillian White. Tyson Fury, not me, but, Billy Joe Saunders. Povetkin. Povetkin was mandatory. I mean, and do we get into a situation where Matchroom say, I am not putting anyone on the card who's ever failed a drugs test? Maybe. But also, Povetkin was mandatory. Joshua had lost his belt. There's nothing we could do about it. So, I don't know. It's hard because these guys, you interview them every day. They're very vulnerable at times. They're good people, generally. And you want to believe good people. But some people are deluded people, and some people do things, and they talk themselves into things, only like committing another crime. Oh, you nicked something from that shop. I didn't. And you almost believe you believe yourself. I didn't do that. Or, you went through that red light. I never. I swear on my kid's life. That's always the best one, isn't it? I never done it. Oh, fucking hell, we never done it. Oh, there's a camera, mate. You done it. Oh, shit. So, again, I'd rather not confuse my mind and just say, you failed, mate. Same with Billy Joe. I don't think Billy Joe was taking substances that he knew about, that he thought, what's he going to give me? I just think he took something that he shouldn't have. Tough. It's on the list, you're out.
Do you think more needs to be done? I think we've spoken about this, but we think needs to be done about people who potentially are, you made the list of three, the third on the list of facilitators who do suggest things. Jarell Miller is going to get banned for this. Whoever give it to him isn't going to get banned. Does boxing need to kind of look at that, look at trainers or look at people who are potentially facilitating this to happen, who are escaping bans?
Maybe ultimately the athlete takes responsibility. So whoever you employ, that's down to you. So you really don't matter who's giving it to him. It's down to you, mate. So you have to bear the brunt for your actions. You put it in your body. He didn't come in, pop in the night when you're asleep and stick a needle in your ass. You put it in, tablet, drink, needle, whatever it is. You knew, you done it. So you have to take responsibility. That's why on a Vada program, again, intentional, unintentional, doesn't matter. Once you ingest it, your responsibility.
Now, you've rattled off a lot of names there, and that's just in the UK, of your Tyson Furies, Dillian Whites, Lucas Brown, Billy Joe Saunders. You could really go on. If you sat down and think about it, you could really go on endlessly about people who have failed drugs tests. Lance Armstrong never failed a drugs test.
No.
One of the worst dopers, or where he did, he got covered up. He got covered up at various different points of his career. But he cheated for 7 years, and I think he failed 2 tests. Is it unreasonable to think that people who are not testing positive, and we'll mention any names, is it unreasonable to think that they're just not getting caught and they are also doping?
I think it depends on the program. Like if you're on this type of Vada programming, consistently, like could you get away with it in camp? Like if you were lucky, maybe. Like over a period of 10, 12 fights with multiple. Look. I don't know whether your question was directed that way, but people talk about Joshua. Well, he's muscular. He's got to be on the peds. Like, you can't do any more. Like, he has UCAD at least once, sometimes twice a week. He has Vada once a week. You can't take any more blood from this guy. So, in my opinion, absolutely impossible for Joshua to consistently take these programs. Like, I know the training setup. And I know what they do in cycling. And it's like, although Joshua's got an advanced training team, they're not, what do they do? Like oxygenising blood. And, like when you watch the Lance Armstrong, you watch the Lance Armstrong films and they're like, got blood like banks and they're putting blood in him. And mate, it's no. But are people out there who are they cheating and not getting caught? 100%. Are they in programs like the Vada random testing and UCAD combined and getting caught? No. I think it's impossible to consistently do it. You may, have a test and then somehow you've got it out of your system for the next one. It ain't much of a life to live. And you can't train. This is like fighting's different. You can do your sparring. like, no. I think if you've got the only way to get rid of it, because you've seen all those people that I've mentioned, 90% of them have been caught by Vada in that kind of scenario. Billy Joe Saunders was a great example of that. That was a nothing, and that was something that UCAD allow. I mean, look at UCAD. They call in competition just the test on a fight night. So what about in competition, getting yourself in shape for a fight? That's not in competition. Don't be ridiculous. So there's so many flaws, and it's really frustrating. It's terrible for the sport. But unless there is consistent VADA testing, like we use for the big fights, I don't know the answer. Or the commission stepping up, or promoters stepping up. And I don't mind. We spend a lot of money on VADA testing, a lot of money. But it's important. It's because someone's going to end up getting severely damaged in a fight by someone that's cheating.
Jarell Miller, I mean, I was there when he came over before Christmas, found him very engaging, knew about his past. Do you know what? I sat down with Dillian White this morning. Dillian White asked me, what do I think about it? And I said that I'm not surprised when any fighter tests positive. Are you surprised? Does it surprise you?
Do you know why I'm surprised? Because of what was in place. I'm not surprised that a fighter has failed a drugs test. I'm just very surprised that when a fighter is signed up to a system where you're going to be randomly tested at any moment of any day, that you would still get caught. That's what surprised me. So again, is that madness, stupidity, or is it just you were addicted? You had to cheat. You could not do this in this camp. You know.
Dave Allen told me yesterday that he doesn't feel, in his opinion, that you can win a world heavyweight title clean.
No, I disagree with him, because I know several fighters that have. You know, and Dave probably doesn't realise the skill levels of some fighters and how good some people are. So for Dave, and maybe Dave Allen couldn't win a heavyweight title clean, but no, I completely disagree with him. And any weight class, you know, preparation is everything. Like I know fighters who prepare so well, you know, with training, with nutrition, with, you know, I'd say supplements might be, but true supplements, who give themselves such an edge, performance edge, by doing things correctly versus people that don't. So no, I think that's a poor statement from Dave. I
think it's probably good for me to put it in context. I don't think he was kind of levelling any accusations at anybody. I think more along the lines of, I feel personally it's quite a sad indictment of the sport that somebody who is in the sport feels that way. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, but again, probably because he's at a level where he can't, he may not reach the levels of those that have done that, and maybe it's an understanding of how do you do that? Like, how do you? But they live a different lifestyle to Dave Allen, you know, and not just when he's not trying, when he's trying. I mean, you compare like a Joshua camp or a Klitschko camp to this camp that Dave Allen's just had, which is probably the greatest camp he could ever have dreamed of. I mean, I saw on his social media 3 days ago, he's doing like WWE wrestling on his bed. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and I love him for that, and people love him for that. But these other guys are timed when they sleep, and they're going into oxygen chambers, and you know, I mean, it's like it's a science, but the science can't involve cheating. Especially, I do think that years ago, like testing never really existed years ago. There was no random testing in camp. You were tested on the night of the fight. That was it. Yeah? So now, and these guys are getting woken up at 4 a.m, and they don't leave, these people, boom, 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 on your door. Vada, I mean, you only got to follow Joshua on Instagram. Look at him literally every day. You see him with a needle in his arm. And what they do is, a lot of the time, they come, and they'll come back the next day. Because if you were cheating, what would you do? Take your test and then do it in the one after.
Would you be interested in working with Jarell Miller again? Should he serve a suspension?
It's always a question. Like people say, why are you working with? When we signed Luis Ortiz, you know, he's failed drugs tests. Why are you working with Luis Ortiz? Like, I don't know. Well, he's active and he's available, and I don't know. I haven't really thought about it, to be honest with you. Like again with Povetkin, we couldn't have turned around and said, we're not fighting you because I'm not working with you because you failed a drugs test once. He's the mandatory. at the moment, I'm pissed off and it's very raw, and I don't know. I'm sure there'll be a full investigation and they'll get to the bottom of it. But I just don't think you can say, I didn't take anything. You did. Like, it's science. There's no doubt you did. I think it's better off finding out what you took. Like, if you really plead your innocence, you need to show or decide what it was.
This is kind of
it was this, and and my team told me that it was fine. That can happen. I believe that happens a lot. But you've got to show it. You can't say, I didn't take it. That's not what they made it up. You know what I mean?
It's kind of, I mentioned TJ Dillashaw earlier on from the UFC. He tested positive and he came out and said, look, I cheated.
Yeah.
And it's refreshing in a way, but again, I'm not saying that I don't know what happened with Jarell Miller until it comes out, but do you think that it would be beneficial for the sport for somebody to come out and say, look, oh, my hand's up, I did it, everyone's at it? Do you think ultimately that would help?
If it's going to expose others and if it's going to expose a problem, yeah. But then you're banishing yourself from the sport, aren't you? But I don't know. You come out, like if he was doing it knowingly, to come out and say, look, it was a really tough fight. I knew I had to be at my best. I stupidly wanted to get an edge, and I did this.
I think people would be more receptive to that than potentially not believing his story.
Yeah, but again, I can understand. I didn't know about anything that I was taking. I can't have. I didn't take anything.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You did. It came up on the test.
So, where does this leave June the 1st? I have a theory that this isn't the worst thing that could have happened to you. It's bad, don't get me wrong, it's bad,
there are
obviously.
Other things that are worse.
But yeah, of course,
yeah.
like sitting here and having to do this interview. But people weren't exactly thrilled about the Jarell Miller fight initially.
But they might not be thrilled with the replacement.
Listen to my theory.
Okay, go on. I'm interested.
No.
It might make me feel better.
Well, I don't know. People weren't exactly thrilled about it initially. Now he's pulled out for something that is completely out of your control and out of Anthony Joshua's control. You've got 7 weeks to find a replacement. All of the available fighters are kind of Jarell Miller's ilk.
Yeah, true.
Some of them are even better, in my opinion, and in a lot of other people's opinion. If you were to get Luis Ortiz, for example, at 7 weeks' notice, people, I believe, would be more interested in that fight.
Unlikely, by the way.
Yeah, sure, okay, unlikely. Would be more interested in that fight, and you've pulled it off on 7 weeks' notice. If you got somebody Jarell Miller's level or even slightly below, you're talking about an Adam Kalnacki or somebody like that, I think people would understand the fact that you've had to draft in a replacement at 7 weeks' notice and would kind of give you an easier ride.
Your angle is that I'm getting away with it.
Not at all.
No, I would have preferred Jarell Miller for a number of reasons. The hype was great, and I do rate him as a fighter. I think he's a dangerous fighter, but it is the Anthony Joshua show, and it is his American debut. But he did sell it well. Do you know what I mean, Jarell? So we'll miss him in that respect, but only that respect right now. You are right in that the person that replaces him will be of the same level as Jarell. Like, this person would have been in a 50-50 fight with Jarell Miller, whoever we choose. So you're not going to get a worse fight. You're just probably going to get a bloke who don't talk as much, which isn't the end of the world. So I'm relaxed. We've got enough time. I've already seen from the list that I know I could sign now that we've got a credible challenger. I just want to make sure I've got the one. I want the one that wants it. Do you know what I mean? I want the one that goes, please give me the chance. I can beat him. I don't want the one who goes, how much is it? I'll have a think about it. And then on the night, 4 rounds go and they go, don't fancy this. Like, that's bullshit. I want someone that is going to have to be nailed to the canvas and he's going to give everything to try and become world heavyweight champion at Madison Square Garden. That's what I want. And there's a few that I believe it would mean the world to. And it's almost like an application of these people saying, me. And there's a lot of people flying in tomorrow and Saturday to talk to me about some that I'm potentially interested in signing for the fight and others that want to convince me. Like, there's been guys I've said, thank you, but I don't think you're the guy. I'm coming to the show Saturday to talk to you. I'm like, no, it's not going to be you. No, but you don't understand it. Like, this kid, I'm coming anyway. It's like, fuck. Like, there's some that I've ruled out in my head.
Who are they?
Joseph Parker. I haven't ruled out Char. whether he's the right guy for the... Like, for me, it should be an American, or it should be someone who is known to the American market.
In my opinion, that would leave a short list of 3. Luis Ortiz, Michael Hunter, Adam Kalnacki. Is that fair?
Yeah, they're 3 guys who I think would be more than acceptable. In what order, I don't know. I mean, I think Luis Ortiz would be the front. Kalnacki and Hunter are like for like. I think Hunter's has a better run lately, and looks a lot better. But Adam's very tough, and he has a great following in New York. Well, he's Polish.
Also, very good friends with Jarell Miller.
Yeah. So, and then you look at the other narratives. Obviously, you got the Luis Ortiz. I mean, these are deep things you think about. Obviously, his connection with Wilder. Michael Hunter is trained by Hasim Rahman, who has probably the greatest upset in heavyweight history over Lennox Lewis.
And he can fight as well. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, that. To be honest, like, Ortiz is a tough fight. I don't think Kanacki's a tough fight for Josh, to be honest. Hunter's a really tough fight because he's smaller and he moves really well. Yeah, he's game as fuck. Yeah, and he's an American Olympian. Manuel Char is known, but I'm not. I don't see Char as a tougher fight as Hunter or Ortiz. I don't. Although Kanacki's ultra tough, styles make fights, and I think he takes a lot of hammer off Joshua. You know what I mean? So does Char. Kayabal's come on. That's a tough fight, but it's not. I don't know whether it's.
It's not MSG work.
Exactly. So, he's another one. Andy Ruiz has come on, who actually is a tough fight, but doesn't quite look to the casuals like he's the guy. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, I'm saying names, you're going like that. The only 3 that I've said that you go is Hunter, Kanacki, Ortiz.
Name some other names.
Char.
No.
Kayabal, you don't like. Ruiz, you went like that too.
It made me look great on the scales, though.
Yeah, it's true. Well, that's a problem.
Yeah,
I mean, actually, it is because you have to understand that a lot of casual fans, that's all they know. It's like a race. You go to the racehorse or horse racing even, and you go to the ring before, and you get the punters like me who haven't got a fucking clue, going, "Oh, look at that one. She looks well. Going to have a good ride. Looks in good nick. What the fuck do I know?" But that's what they see on the scales. So when they see Andy Ruiz or Kanacki, imagine now we're going to get stick for whoever we go with, right? So if you're in with someone that's a little bit sort of out of shape or don't look great on the scales, that's Dillian White. Let me just say this. I'm just with Boxing Social talking about you. Actually, I'm just finishing up all the media from the press conference, so I'll call you straight after. Half hour? Okay, bye.
And if you want to hear Dillian White's reaction to Joshua versus Miller, check Boxing Social's YouTube channel. Where were we? Bob Arum told Boxing Social yesterday, I think it was, or the day before, that Kubrat Pulev will not fight Anthony Joshua. Adam Kalnacki came out and said that he wasn't going to take the fight. Yeah, just your thoughts on those. They would have been viable opponents.
Yes, I won't say any names, but there's been a couple of people that have said, or someone said on their behalf, they won't be the opponent, and either the fighter or a manager has called me and said, we will take it. Do you know what I mean? So don't always believe. I mean, on the same hand...
Is that negotiation? What's that?
Yeah, generally. I think so. I mean, like, the first person I spoke to was Jay Jimenez, who is Luis Ortiz's manager, who said, "We won't be ready, mate." And I said, "It's 7 weeks." Like, he said, "I just got back from holiday." And then I saw an article with someone saying, "Ortiz, I'm ready for June 1. I'm like, so don't always believe what you said. We'll go back and say, "You sure?" Maybe you're just trying to get a bigger offer. I don't know. But we have to go through all these processes with everybody. So, yeah, some say they don't want it. Some say they want it. Some who actually don't want it. Some say I won't be ready, who really will be ready if the money's right. But I don't want someone that's not going to be ready. Does that make sense? Like, and after, I only had 6 weeks' notice. With a full fuck off, mate. Like, if you want it, you can have it. But no excuses.
Picking up there, having some battery issues, but it's okay. Just got the phone to Dillian White. I went to see Dillian White this morning. He said, rather tongue-in-cheek, I think, that he is ready to step in and save the fight for the fans and the people.
He told me
that's Dillian being Dillian.
He told me how much he wants to step in, but I think he was even joking about that. He's fighting in July. That'll be announced very soon. And one of the problems with him not accepting the first deal was that he said that it was only 8 weeks. And or 9 weeks, and obviously this is 6.5 weeks. So I think Dillian's up for fighting anyone, but his focus is on July.
I think he said to me, because I said the same thing to him, like, how can you say you're interested in the fight when beforehand? He said that part of it was the Vada testing, but Joshua has been under those testing periods for this amount of time, so that was what he was worried about. But yeah, I mean, it's unrealistic to expect him to step in for that date, surely.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, there hasn't. We joked about it last night, and he sort of said, "Oh, give me this much, and I'm in." But it was tongue in cheek, But it's not. I don't think it's even under consideration. He can tell people he'll step in, as a lot of people do, but I think he knows that his focus is on July.
Do you regret not making Joshua Whyte at Wembley now?
No, I tried to make that fight. I can't. When you say regret, in the pay-per-view model or the model that applies, I can only do what is agreed by a fighter, or sometimes both fighters, to try and make a fight. So I can't have any regret, because essentially I'm under instruction. I tried. We got to a level where I thought the offer was decent. Wasn't replicated by both sides. Who's at fault? Don't know. Blame both of them if you want. Blame me if you want. But I can't. I don't. The numbers have to work for the fighters. And if they don't, it don't get made. So it's not really, I could have done this or I could have done that. It was like, this is what everyone was happy with. Dillian, are you happy with it? No. Okay, do you want to change it? No. All right, done.
Is there any kind of overlap between Anthony Joshua's potential opponents and opponents that were potentially in conversations with Dillian White?
I mean, the opponent that Dillian's likely to face in July could have boxed Joshua on June 1. And I think you would have been fine with it. I think it would have got one of your reactions rather than reactions. It's a good fight.
Picking it up again, card full up that time. Terrible from me this week, as I just mentioned off camera. I've been without my trusted soldier Andy Purewell this week, so not the most well prepared. So Dillian White, unrealistic. David Haye, spoke to David Haye, did 6 minutes with David Haye, and it was like he'd walked into The Apprentice and the Anthony Joshua fight was on the table and he wanted it. Is that realistic, Chisora versus Joshua?
I mean, Derek's always in the running for big fights. Like, and if he beats Gashi in style, I mean, that's a fight that would do more pay-per-view buys in the UK than some of the names we mentioned on your thumbs-up list. I don't think he's the right guy for June 1. I would never disrespect Derek and tell him that he don't deserve a shot, because he was winning a fight against Dillian White going into the 11th round and got knocked out. So, but a lot depends on how he looks against Gashi. I don't see any way really where it can be him on June 1. But I do think he's on the verge of another big fight if he can just get a solid win at the weekend.
Let's just talk about the rest of the card. Let's finish off with that. I did start the interview kind of down that route, and we got sidetracked with the Joshua Miller stuff. Fun night at the O2. Been speaking to Coogan about it during the week. It is one of those kind of fun fight weeks at the O2.
Yeah, and sometimes did you lose our interview earlier?
That little bit there we've had to redo.
So basically,
right, Eddie, you're a pro.
Okay, so sometimes you do a really good trade card, which keeps the Twitter sphere happy. So, like, thinking back, last October we did a card at the Copper Box, which was John Ryder against Sorokin, Cheeseman against Byfield, Jordan Gill against Ryan Doyle, and Watkins against Chamberlain. Great night. It didn't really rate very well because it was a trade card. Trade cards don't rate very well. This one might be one that actually winds the Twitter sphere up, but it's got something for everyone. It's got the two big heavyweight fights. It's got Josh Kelly, got Conor Benn, got Joe Cordina, and good fights as well. So, yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to two heavyweight fights. I think they're both going to be brutal. And I think Josh Kelly's in a good fight. Great to see him back. I think Cordina has a really tough test against Townend, especially coming back from injury, in with a big puncher at lightweight in Townend. And Conor Benn's always exciting. Shannon Courtenay, John Harding Jr., who spoke so well earlier. Sam Hyde on the card as well. Nikita Ababi, who's our big American talent who's great to watch, and it's a really good card.
Yeah, I just stepped on what I was about to ask next. Nikita, that'd be White Chocolate. That's a
Yeah,
brilliant
right,
nickname.
yeah.
Good fighter. Really excited to see him over here. Can you expect to see him boxing in the UK more often going forward?
Yes, that's a plan to make sure that a lot of our US fighters... Coogan.
Answer if you want.
Oh, but it's probably to tell me something. I'm in the middle of an interview with Rob Tebbutt. Yeah. What you got for me? Hold on. Go on.
You are doing an interview with Boxing Social?
Yeah. It's really long as well. It's been... Obviously, I'm still here.
long?
Jesus, I've actually got to go in a minute.
Right, just so you know, our interview yesterday did 250,000 views. See you later.
Okay.
All right, Coogan, it's not a competition.
I've actually got to go in a minute, by the way.
No, it's fine. Yeah, Nikita Rababi, good fighter.
Really good.
Glad to see him
It's
over
a plan of ours to make sure that our US fighters get the exposure in the UK and get the experience. He's only 20. He's had 3 fights, 3 first-round knockouts. He's been sparring Danny Jacobs like tens and tens of rounds and having wars with him. Really good talent. So just good experience for him.
Last thing, Conor Benn, is he number 6 with the WBA?
Yeah, I've had this question. He's gone up since he's not fought. So I don't know. He shouldn't be 6. And this happens because people fall out of the rankings and et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, we've got to take it not slowly with him, but he's learning. He's had a long time out, so get the win Saturday and then be in some big domestic fights.
Something we spoke about a couple of weeks ago with kind of the WBA and getting these trinkets and picking up these belts. It can kind of push people into these positions. Is that what's happened with Conor?
Yeah, basically. And to be fair to the WBA, I know they get a lot of criticism. Like, doing the rankings is quite hard because someone wins, someone loses, someone moves up in weight. So sometimes you might get a guy who jumps a couple and you think, why has he jumped? He ain't even boxed. But, you know, if we individually analysed every fighter in the rankings, I don't think anyone would agree all round that that fighter should be there, other than the pound-for-pound fighters within their divisions who are number 1.
Speaking of which, Crawford Khan, last one, I promise. Break down the fight for me.
I think Amir's got the speed and skill to mix it with anybody at 147. Like Lomachenko, Crolla last week, you're fighting an elite pound-for-pound guy. But Amir's operated at a higher level more consistently than Anthony Crolla. He's just got to be disciplined. He can't get involved. He's got to listen to Virgil. And then I think he's got a decent chance in the fight, and I hope he wins it.
Will you be watching the fight?
Yes.
Playing your BT box office?
Oh, good point. Yeah, no, probably not. Oh, maybe I'll watch it.
Maybe I'll find a stream.
I'll get Frank Smith to Instagram live it to me. What was that?
Okay, well, Eddie Hearn, as always, a pleasure sitting down with you. Thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social and asking all my very boring questions about drug testing. Look forward to catching up with you soon.
Okay, mate. Cheers.
Cheers. Nice one.